今天我们要。 Ladies and gentlemen, as our webinar will be commencing shortly, I would like to remind all of our participants that the housekeeping rules to ensure the smooth sail of our event. Firstly, I humbly request for all participants to mute your mics. This to ensure there will be no interferences to the audio when the speaker is presenting. We also encourage you to turn on your camera so that our speaker can see a couple of friendly faces amongst the crowd today. So please note that we will be having a Q&A session, including the moderated session by Dr. Sarah. So, and we'll begin in a couple of minutes, so please stay tuned. We owe it to our children to be better stewards of the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very heartwarming to be able to have all of you here today. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Farhan Hadeed, your MC for today. Our host, Lex Aquatica, is a student-led initiative aimed at disseminating information and stimulating discussions on international and domestic laws related to the marine environment. As part of Lex Aquatica, the Malaysian Marine Environment Public Policy and Law Review Competition, or better known as MPPLC, is one of the main initiatives that Lex Aquatica is embarking on, supplemented with a series of student forums and infographics to achieve marine environment literacy among law students and the public. So today's seminar is designed to supplement participants of MPPLC in their journey in the competition. Moving on, Ecology, Universiti Malaya. Ecology, a wordplay on the words ecology and law, is a sub-project under the UN Law Society with a vision and mission to address as well as to provide a platform for students to raise their concerns on environmental issues. Ecology has been working closely with Lex Aquatica in achieving its goals for the team. Now, it is time to welcome our speaker for the day, Dr. Sarah Aziz. Dr. Sarah is a senior fellow and associate professor at the Institute for Environment and Development, or LESTARI UKM. She read and received her training in law, and her work focuses primarily on the relationship between law, environment and development, with special emphasis on natural resources and environmental governance, law and sustainable development, disaster risk reduction, preparedness and response, and heritage conservation. It is an honor to have her here with us this morning. So the moderators for today's session will be Ms. Parvaneetha and Ms. Siti Radhwa. So without further ado, moderators, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Farhan. Hello, everyone. I'm Parvaneetha, and I'll be your moderator. It is indeed a fact that the marine environment today is facing anthropogenic threats such as land reclamation, pollution, and unsustainable fishing. The question is whether our policies and legislations are sufficient enough to combat these threats. Well, that's what the participants have to answer. To help with that, joining us is Dr. Sarah. How are you doing, Dr. Sarah?
I'm all good. Thank you very much. How's everybody?
I hope everyone is good. So Doctor will be talking on the topic of legal review and policy framing, a question of nuts and bolts. Therefore, participants are highly encouraged to drop their questions in the chat box or use the raise hand feature to ask their questions while Doctor is presenting later. If there's nothing else, we can start off with your presentation. The floor is yours, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen if I can get permission. Yep. Got it. Okay, so what we have is on the site, I'll just show the video here. Participants list here. Okay. And the chat so that I can see who's raised their hands, and the chat box here so that I can see what's being asked. Okay. So before I start, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Lex Aquatica and Ecology, for this opportunity to share what little I know based on the work that I've done on policy drafting and also legal review. I will not be giving you a lecture. I don't like lectures, never liked it when I was in school. In law school, hated it, never attended class also because I don't like lectures. But this will be a sharing session. So what you have on your screen is just one slide. Don't worry, only one, not 10, not 20, just one. And it's all in pictorial form-ish. And what we'll do is I'll take you through this picture, and hopefully I can sort of share with you what are the processes involved when you actually want to either review a statutory instrument, be it a federal law or a state law, or when you want to actually review, sort of do a policy review or even draft one. Now, the organizers shared with me the competition that you guys are going to do, and it's like, wow, tough, but amazing. And what I wanted to highlight to everybody here today is that there is a difference between legal review and policy drafting. And I'm sure everybody's familiar with this. But I like to ask a question. I ask this every time whenever I have meetings. I always ask them. I'll ask anybody in the room, which comes first, law or policy? Anybody, you can just drop your answer in the chat box. Law first or policy first?
Policy.
Ah, really? Okay. Anybody else? Law. Can we have a vote? How many people say law and how many people say policy? Can I have like a show of hands? Okay, I think we can calculate, right? How many? Okay, how many say law first? And can you sort of raise your hand in the... We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Very slow, huh? 4 only. Okay, how many of you say policy comes first? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I guess everybody says policy first, then law. Then I'll have to ask you a question. Where does the mandate come from for you to actually formulate the policy? You see, you can't formulate or you can't draft, you can't frame, you can't even launch a policy if you don't have the mandate. So mandates can only come from instruments of law. So in Malaysia, I like to sort of sort this out lah. In Malaysia, the federal constitution is the supreme law of the land. Of course, in some areas it's not, but it is the supreme law of the land. It tells you what you can and you cannot do in Malaysia. So that instrument gives you the mandate to do certain things. So how governments are run. So for ministries, they can only frame or draft or launch policies if the mandate is given to them. Anybody knows what instrument, if it's not a specific statutory instrument, what instrument, what legal instrument actually gives them the mandate to allow them to draft policies? Anybody? Oh, yo, if exam show gagal, we cemerlang, man. Anybody? Chat box can drop your answer in the chat box. Yes, we know it's an act of parliament, but what is the name of the law that will give, for example, for federal ministries, for states, I'll come to that later, but for federal, where does that come from? That power. Yeah, thank you so much. Ministerial Functions Act 1969. So before you even begin to say that there is a problem or there is an issue, the first stop will be to check the current government gazette of what the government can do. So after every election, we have a new government, right? And then they'll gazette the powers. Or sometimes we don't have to have an election, we can have a new government. So they'll gazette the powers. So you have to refer to the gazette to see each ministry, what are the powers that they hold. And they'll say, oh, boleh menggubah dasar, atau boleh menetapkan dasar. So they'll have those words, you know. So look at those words. That's your starting point. So you need to determine at the very beginning, at the outset, number one, can they actually either A, come up with a law, or B, come up with a policy. So the Ministerial Function Act 1969 is your first point of entry to see whether or not they have the scope, the power, the jurisdiction, you name it. After you check that, then you come down, then you have to ask yourself, because the topic that's been given to you is quite big, right? So now you can either, I believe you can either do a legal review or a policy review, right? Does it go? Either one, kan? So when you want to do either one, we have to be very clear of a few things. So this is what I would do. Okay, this is how I work, and this is what's inside my head. So what I'm sharing with you is what's inside my head. It's not this pretty lah, but it's not this well arranged ish. My head is really messy, but this is how I would approach the problem lah, this way. So when you are reviewing a law, or you're reviewing a policy, or you're trying to draft a law, or you're trying to draft a policy, the fundamental thing that you need to decide is actually, what is it that you want to intervene? What kind of interventions do you want to actually put forward? The intervention, depending on whether it's a problem or an issue, we'll come to that later, you have to decide what is it that you want to do and how do you want to intervene? Not you lah. I mean, that recommendation that you want to make, or the suggestion, or whatever that you want to put on the table. So that intervention is so critical, because the intervention will be based on your literature review, your research, your groundwork, your whatever that you're doing out there. Now, when you're doing the intervention, you have two branches. You can either go the legal way, or you can go the policy way. Now, a lot of people, I have seen, I've actually read theses where people actually say, oh, policies actually enforces blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, policy cannot enforce, only law can enforce. What does a policy do? It just sets the direction as to what a particular authority or government or group or whatever, where do you want them to go? It's like a huge map with a compass, and it basically tells you like, okay, everybody, we're going to go this way. Or everybody, these are some of the routes that you can take to get you from point A to point B. That's what a policy does. I'm not going to go through all the academic the academic discussion as to, what is policy and what's not policy. No, I'm not going to do that. So what I need to do is need you to just see that in its simplest form, policy is just a document that sets out principles of action. So when in your spare time, try to find out what the word principle actually means and what the word action means. Because we assume we know, but actually we don't. So when you're trying to see, okay, are we looking at principles of action, or are we looking at things related to mandates, responsibilities, or accountabilities? And then your intervention can either be regulatory measures, something that you want to go and hit people with, or something that actually sets out the direction, the aspirations, and the strategies that you want to sort of hold on to, so that everybody's on the same page. This one, everybody doesn't have to be on the same page. Somebody will just beat you up and you'll be on the same page. This one is you're encouraging them, you're telling them, you're showing them. Sometimes we use policies to actually sort of flesh out what is actually encapsulated in the law. It tells you like, you cannot pollute, you cannot throw A, you cannot throw B, you cannot do this. Sometimes the policies will tell you, oh, this is the reason why. Okay, so when you're looking at interventions, what you actually need to do is, we read in the newspapers, the social media, and even journalistic articles, all this academic sort of discussion and all sorts of things, and people reviewing saying, oh, everything is bad, we're doomed, we're all going to die. Is that true? So what you need to do is you need to do at least two things. Number one is you need to do a situational analysis. Sit down and analyze the situation. What's going on? So this is where you look at where we're at, what's the signs, what do we have that we can refer to, anecdotal or non-anecdotal. So what is that? What kind of information do we have? Do we have the right analytics? Is everything there? And then we look at the people. What's going on? What's the place? What's happening in that place? And then we have to, of course, since your sort of this competition is about the state of the marine environment, the state, the health, the condition of that marine environment. So there are many methods when you want to carry out situation analysis. There are many methods. There's the simplest one would be to do. Anybody? Anyone here knows of a simple method to do situation analysis? I think you can turn on your mic, right? Boleh kan, Madam Moderators? You can?
Yes, Doctor.
Thank you. Anybody knows of a simple method to do situational analysis?
Doctor, can I try?
Can. No need to try, just jump in lah. Change your mind lah.
Research.
Research is how you get things done. But what's the method for you to determine whether or not this is a situation? Simplest method, everybody does it. I'll give you a clue. I don't know lah whether you still have it now. Yes, Mr. Paul. Nice to see you here.
What about scenario?
Scenario building, it's not quite a method, it's already technique already. There is a simple method that you can do.
Do you mean by having an interview?
That's carrying out what you need to do in order to get the results based on the method that you'll be using. Desktop study, yes, but that will actually feed to the method that you'll be using. Reading from the news, I don't read the news anymore. It's too depressing. But yeah, that will feed into the method that we're using. When I was in law school, I'm very lazy. So I don't really study. I believe in osmosis, okay? It worked for me and I sleep with books. Don't have the time to read. Don't like to, well, I love reading, just don't like to read my textbook. So there used to be this series of books that will be that's published. Yes, SWOT analysis. Thank you so much. There you go. The answer is there in the chat box. SWOT. So success without tears. That was, so anyway, it's strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So people tend to do SWOT. It's the easiest. So when you're trying to figure out what is the situation on the ground, do a SWOT analysis. And what you can do is you can, based on your observation, based on the desktop study, based on the materials that you've read from different media sources, based on your observation, you've gone to the field, you've observed, and using the right techniques, of course, standing there in the car, winding your window down, just looking out, that's not observation. There's certain techniques behind observation. So all these different techniques, then you develop your analysis, the SWOT analysis, and you can now feed into your situational analysis. So once you understand what's happening, what is the real situation, you then move on to do the needs assessment. Okay, I won't ask you again what methods. There's plenty of methods to use when you want to do needs assessment. So this is where you look based on your SWOT analysis, based on your situational analysis, SWOT analysis, and then you upscale it to a situational analysis. Once you've done that, then you do the needs assessment. You take a look and see, oh, are we missing the signs? Sometimes when we think of signs, we always think of like lab coat signs, like the chemistry, physics, bio, but science, does anybody know what the meaning of the word science is? Yeah, anybody? What does the word science mean?
Is it a series of phenomenon that happens around us, Doctor?
Cool, but not warm. So let's not spend 1 hour trying to unpack what science means, but I would always recommend, always, my God, I think this is what my mother drained into my head when I was a child. You cannot leave your house without a dictionary. You cannot start anything without a dictionary, because she says, if you don't say what you mean and you don't mean what you say, then you are irrelevant. So ever since I was a child, that's been drained in my head. So when you see a word, own it. So when I say science here, I don't mean the chemistry, physics, bio. I actually means pula ayu. I actually mean all forms of knowledge. It can be traditional, it can be indigenous, it can be based on observations, which need not be, you don't have to go to university to get that knowledge, you know. You don't have to have a degree to actually be a scientist. Okay, the art of knowing, basically. The systematic observation or whatever that surrounds us. So that is science. So you need to see whether do we have that. Sometimes we say, oh, there's no science. Is that true? Have you asked the locals? Have you asked the people who've actually lived there? They've lived with it. They have seen it. They have, over the years, formulated, postulated, and come to many conclusions. Have you asked them? So sometimes we say, oh, we don't know. Have you asked the people who are there? Okay, so when you talk about science, it's something even bigger than what's in the Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 journals, or oh, you have to refer to only these holy books. And no. It's about what's on the ground and what's written down. So then we go on to the next thing. Do we have the people? Do we have the right community? So what do they need? What do they have? And what do they need to do? Okay, and not one, not one. Need, have, do. So then you have to list down. Say, okay, who's there? Who are the targeted groups? You know, who are the targeted groups? Who are the stakeholders? Who do we need to engage? Or who do we need to include? You know, so what is their stake? What's their interest? So those are the things that you need to unpack. And it doesn't have to be just the community there. It can be the surrounding community. It can even be the government. It can be an investor sitting somewhere in Dubai. So those are the things that you have to factor in. Then you look at money lah. The world cannot, the money makes the world go round, right? No money, no talk, you know. So that is something that you have to consider. And last but not least is the technology. Again, when we say technology, it's not the iPhone. Sometimes it's just a stick and a rock. So we always say, oh, not enough technology. We don't have. We have to get the best one. We have to import from don't know where. No need. Sometimes the locals have done it already. So, for example, coastal erosion kan. Oh, we have to build this. This whatever lah. You have to build. I'm sorry, I'm not a scientist. Build. You know, so damn good. But we never ask the locals. They probably have got techniques and local technologies that we can actually adopt and adapt and upscale or increase or expand. So many things that we can do. So situational analysis, very important. Needs assessment after situational analysis. You do this, then you know, okay, then you have to come and decide whether or not you're looking at a problem or an issue. Not the same, huh? So this is why the dictionary is very important. Problem, different. Issue, different. Because we need to intervene here. So the interventions will depend on whether or not it's a problem or it's an issue. So if you look at Oxford Dictionary, or my mother indoctrinated me, the only dictionary you should ever use in this world is Oxford Dictionary. My mother. So she's, Oxford says, when you say something is a problem, it's a matter or situation regarded as unwelcome or harmful. It's a thing or a situation I don't like and it will hurt me. And you need to deal with it and overcome it. It's not or, it's and. So it's something so like, oh, cannot brain really have to, this is so bad. We have to deal with it. We have to overcome it. We have to get it out of the way. So then it's a problem. If based on your situation analysis, whatever that you found out, right? Or it's something that is difficult to achieve. Sorry, not offer, it's or accomplish. something so difficult to achieve that, you know, I want to go live on Mars, not happening, difficult to achieve. You know, when I was in school, I said, oh, I'm going to get first class. Not going to happen because I was doing osmosis. Never going to happen. Can't work. So that's a problem, isn't it? Or is it an issue? So when you're looking at issue, it's an important topic or problem for debate or discussion. That means you're still unpacking here. You're still sorting it out. You're still thrashing it out. You're still, you know, figuring out, oh, is this something that, so let me ask you, asking someone out on a date and deciding where to go on a date, which one is a problem and which one is an issue? Asking someone out on a date and deciding where to go on that date. Which one is a problem, which one is an issue? How many of you say asking is a problem? Why do you think asking someone out is a problem? Would you like to share why? We've got two, you know, two people. Obviously, you face this as a problem. So why do you say it's a problem? See, it's scary, unwelcome, right? Harmful, because the person can say no, your heart will be broken, right? Right? So it's unwelcome, it's exactly, it's difficult to achieve. Even better, very difficult to accomplish. The girl say, alamak, you're not my level, like you. So, you know, so you've got things like that. So that's why it's a problem. Taking someone, deciding where to go out, where to go for your date, is that a problem or an issue? Issue. Why is it an issue? Yeah, because you have to discuss lah. Wait lah, I got only 50 ringgit lah. 50 ringgit, we go McDonald's, can or not? You know, as opposed to, it's okay, I got my parents' black visa. Wow, can touch anywhere I can go, you know, with the PIN number. So this is how you see. So when you're on the ground, you're trying to look at the marine environmental problems related to environmental problems. It can be environmental issues, can be the environmental health of the marine environment. So your location, the place that you've chosen to look at, or the subject matter that you've decided to look at, that's another thing that we have to also discuss. Are you looking at a place? Are you looking at time? Are you looking at a subject matter? Or are you looking at an object? You know, so those are things that will inform your framing of your proposal lah. Do you want to see the object? I only want to see sharks. That's it, baby sharks. That's my goal in life. Baby sharks is the way. So that's the object. But the subject matter could be, I want to see whether or not the coral ecosystem is healthy. That's the subject. Or it could be time. I want to see over during the monsoon season, is coastal erosion more, you know, what's the word for it? Teruk lah during the monsoon season, or is it not so teruk during the monsoon season? Sorry, I'm using rojak here. So, or it can be spatial based. It can be, okay, I only want to look at pantai, I don't know, Pulau Kukup. I want to look at Tanjung Karang. So based on your either space, time, object, or subject, then you do your situation analysis kan. Then you can decide, okay, in relation to the object, subject, space, and time, am I looking at a problem, or am I looking at issue, or am I looking at both? And then, got some more, no, you just don't stop here. So from the problems and the issues that you have looked at, usually you break down to this four, usually you break down to this four. There's more, but I tend to just do four. Too much, no, not a good thing. Less is always more. So what I have found in my little formula of trying to work, I've broken it down to four. Number one is I look at risks, I look at threats, I look at challenges, and I look at constraints. Why risks? Because especially for environmental health or ecosystem health, you're looking at situations where there is possibilities of exposure to danger, or it's already exposed to danger, so the risks will be higher, or there is a possibility of something unpleasant or unwelcome that will come and that will lead to harm or danger. So it's coming. It's like I don't know, it's like Thanos coming, you know, so that's a risk. We don't know when he's coming and stuff like that. So these are things that we can, then you have to unpack based on your situational analysis. Am I going to address risks, or I have to address the threats also? So you're looking at, for example, marine ecosystem health, you're looking at either a person or a thing that will cause damage or danger. Sometimes we think, oh, it's the fishermen or it's the people who are not trained that are causing danger. Sometimes it could just be the person making decisions, not coming up with the right instruments to tell people, actually, when you go out, when you throw the net, you must throw the net at 30 degrees. This is what 30 degrees looks like, not at 180 degrees. Okay, so something is missing. So because of that, these people or some things, the type of boat, instead of using, I don't know, boat X, they use boat Z, you know, and that causes damage or can lead to danger. And when you talk about damage, is damage to something, or danger is danger to something. So one is going to sort of make it like, you know, hurt. The other one is going to put it in a situation where it can be hurt, the danger bit. So it doesn't have to destroy, it doesn't have to damage, it doesn't have to cut or break, but it can even lead to where it's going to cause danger. They can't breathe. For example, fish cannot breathe. It's not damage yet, right? It's danger. So do you see? So it could be a balance between both risks and threats. Okay, and then we have the other side, the flip side. This is the reason why I arrange it this way, because if you can see, this is somehow similar to the word problem. And this is somewhat similar to the word issue. So you look at constraints. Sometimes you have everything in place. Law check, penalties check, enforcement people, whatever that they need for enforcement check. Okay, everything check. And then when you see, oh, alamak lah, got constraint lah. There's some limitations or some restriction that stops them from doing their job. So then you have to decide, or do I now go back here and make sure that I come up with the right guidelines, or I come up with the right regulation, or I come up with the right rules, or I come up with the right order? What is it that can remove this limitation or restriction? Or it could be a set of challenges. Everything you have, but the terrain is terrible. You can't access the place. Accessibility is a problem, for example. So these are usually the things that I would cross off my checklist before I decide whether I need to intervene from the legal perspective or intervene from the policy perspective. So this is a very, very simplified version. I'm not doing justice to the thousands of years of work in research, and I'm just doing a very, very straightforward chincai way of sharing with you what I do. I mean, there's a method to this madness, and there's a lot of research, and there's a lot of, you have to understand all the different methods, the techniques, and then you have to have the right research questions. You have the right problem statement in the first place. So when you're framing your proposal, you have to be very sure that there is something that is puzzling you so bad, that is eating at you, and you just have to overcome it. You have to deal with it and overcome it. Okay, so your problem statement will have to be something so like, oh, I cannot understand, cannot brain, you know, and then you can come up with the research questions. Why? How come? Where God? So those will be your research questions. At the end of the day, your interventions here can either come up with options or can set out opportunities. Sometimes the answer is very simple. This is your option. choose A or choose B. Okay, here is a situation now, take it or leave it. That's also an option. Okay, or sometimes when the options are not clear, or sometimes you have to add value to the existing options, you explore the opportunities. So you look at the time and the set of circumstances that can make something possible, or something can happen. Okay, clear as mud. Any question? So quiet. Madam moderators, I return it back to you lah.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for that presentation. Now we open the floor for participants to ask your questions away in the chat box. And then I will be asking it to Doctor. Or maybe you can also open your mic straight away, or also use the raise hand feature for any questions.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Okay, Dr. Since, okay, in the meantime, while we're waiting for the questions from the participants, there are a few frequently asked questions that arises from multiple platforms that we received. Some of it, okay, what are some tips and tricks to bear in mind, especially for participants who have no experience whatsoever in any public policy drafting competition?
Read the 12th Malaysia Plan. Read the 12th Malaysia Plan. They've laid out all the problems and things that they need to solve. Read it. That's the tip.
All right, thank you, Doctor. Now we have a question from Lishan. Dr. Sarah, may I ask whether when it comes to the intervention part, especially involving the law, are we supposed to propose amendments in the existing law, or we should find the lacunas in the law for ensuring that the Parliament will have a look at this?
Good question. First, find what's missing and then make the recommendation as to how you can plug what's missing. So it's the other way around. So look at the law. You've done your situation analysis, you've done your needs assessment, you now know that it's either a problem or whatever issue, and there's certain things that you have to address, like the risks, the threats, the challenges, or the constraints, and then you look at the law. Does it cover? The trick is simple, kan? Look at the verb, and then you look at the noun. Every sentence, look at the verb and look at the noun, then you know, oh, okay, they're supposed to do this, and then you look at the meaning of the word, because we use section 17A of the Interpretations Acts 1947, 1949, 1967. Okay, so when you're looking at that, so look at the scope of what the law provides. What is it that they want you to look at? And what verb do they use? That's very important. So a lot of our laws, we're not very careful with the verb that we use. For example, we shall provide, we shall control. So those are very, very important, because that will tell you whether or not you can use the existing law to add more power. Am I making sense? I think I am. And then look at the noun, or license, permit, area, premises. So the interpretation, the section 2 of the interpretations, right? Go through one by one and see whether or not what worries you, what is puzzling you, is actually within that or not. If it's not, that means you have to say, okay, the law may need to be reviewed, or because if you go at the back of the instrument, you get the regulations, rules, and order section, right? You can do whatever in order to carry your job, right? So look through that. If they are allowed to come up with regulations, or they're allowed to come up with rules, or orders, then have a look at that and see whether or not you can now introduce what needs to be fixed without going to Parliament. Because regulation, orders and rules, ministers are just signed. So it's faster lah. So look at the instrument, use the purposive approach. You have a problem. In order to address the problem, or you have an issue, in order to address this issue, you have to do certain things. And then you look at the law, does the purpose of the law cover that? If it doesn't, look at the gaps. Where is the missing link? But before you say, oh, we have to change the law. No, stop. Wait first. Go to the back and see whether or not everything is there. If they have given the powers to the minister, use that, because you know how it is, going back to Parliament is not easy. Amending or reviewing laws, it's not easy. You have to satisfy 222 people. Plus the public, now we have RIA, right? We have under the MPC, you have to do RIA. So you have to publish the draft and you have to get feedbacks from the public, and then you can't please everybody, somebody, nobody. So the best way forward is actually to see where, always look at the nouns, always look at the verbs, look at the coverage, use the purposive approach, and you can find out where the gaps are. Then you decide whether you want to fix the motherboard or you want to just fix the stuff on the side. Okay, sorry, that was the question here. Marine, does that include? Okay, sorry, Madam Moderators, please.
Thank you, Doctor. Okay, next, moving on to on Chan. Marine, does that include inland fishing, i.e. river, whether subsistence or commercial, and coastal?
Which law, from whether federal or state, are you looking at? So you have to look at the instruments related to marine at federal and state levels, because for example, title of this competition, organizers tolong jawab. Nanti saya jawab kan salah.
Who is also the director of this project, has also answered in the comment in the chat box. Marine as in of or relating to the sea. I hope that answers your question, on 10.
I'm tempted to make it worse for you all. Should I do that? You see, you use the word marine environment. So go figure out what the word environment means. Blame the men in between, the MEN in the environment. Terrible people. So look at the word environment, and then you can, because the word environment is slightly bigger than marine area. So since the title is marine environment, so you may have to expand it. Sorry, yeah, organizers.
Okay, Doctor. Okay, next we have a question from Aloysius. Salam sejahtera. From your great years of experiences, what are the common issues or lacks that you often see in the current policies today?
Thank you for the compliment. I am that old. I wouldn't say great years of experiences. There's some years were not great. So I think at the end of the day, it's who am I to comment lah? But I'll comment lah. Remember the place, the time, the object, and the subject. So sometimes policies don't look at this these four aspects rather objectively. They just like macam taram lah, just do lah, just put, you know. So, and then sometimes some policies, some strategies, you don't know whether they're going to fix a problem or they're trying to address an issue. So sometimes policies, I'm just as guilty. Sometimes you draft the sentences in policies, right? And then you're hoping that agency X will pick it up and roll with it, you know. But sometimes they don't understand what you're trying to say. So it kind of like, you know, gets left behind. So I think the biggest problem we have is actually prioritization. Do we want to fix a problem first, or do we want to address issues? A lot of policies are drafted in such a way that it's always low-hanging fruits first, because it really looks good on record that you've done, tick, 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 you know? Or do we actually want to go to the very fundamental core of what's actually harming the environmental health? So again, and then sometimes when framing policies, you have to juggle different interests and also different expectations. Okay, they're only interested in this much. You give them this much. No, no, no. Small, small, small. Okay, so sometimes you have to scale it down until the point that you cannot move forward lah. Or the expectation is like, okay, one small sentence, the result is this big. So for me, that has been the biggest problems that I faced when drafting policies. So when you look at current marine policies, policies are supposed to be agile. It's supposed to capture the moment. It's supposed to capture the signs of that moment, you know, or the forecasted signs of the future. So the direction and aspiration and strategies, it has to be flexible and agile. So we have policies and we don't have, okay, this is the biggest problem we have lah. We have tons of policies, and if you were to review the policies, you have to ask yourself, has this policy ever been monitored or assessed? Do we have indicators? Some policies don't have indicators. For example, in the work that we just finished, we gave them a set of indicators for every policy statement. There's a indicator, set of indicators. Oh, cannot lah. So how? So those are the things. So the monitoring, the idea is there, the direction is there. How do we make sure that that direction has actually been translated down and has cascaded down and someone has picked it up and done something with it? So indicators, monitoring, reporting. How do you report the performance of a policy? That's another lacking bit. Who do you report to? Okay, it's great. We report to CBD, we report to UNCLOS. Well, we don't report to UNCLOS. We report to CBD. Sometimes we also add elements of the marine environment to CITES, and then sometimes we add, there's some reporting. But where is the big sort of marine kind of like desk that collects all the information for everything, so that all of us, not just those with mandates, can actually have a look at it, so that we know what part we can play. And sometimes I feel that we can do what we can based on what we know. So sometimes the situational analysis, there's a lot of challenges in carrying that out. So Malaysia is small but very big. Because we're all coastline, kan? The whole country has got a coastline. So it becomes a bit of a challenge trying to design something. And then our federated system, I like it, but some people find it a hindrance because, oh, Semenanjung Malaysia, you do your way, Sabah, Sarawak, we do our way. And to me, it's great. I actually like it that way. I probably am one of the rare ones who think that you don't have to uniform everything, because I don't like to wear uniform. I don't like to follow rules, but you know, you don't have to do everything in one straight line. Sometimes you have to do something that works for a certain place. But what is the overall, this sort of overarching overall direction that we want to go to? So that's policies lah. Not helping, right?
I believe that it helps. I hope so, Aloysius.
I hope so.
All right. Next question, which is again from Nishan. So for this question, I will be addressing on behalf of Lex Aquatica. The question is, especially for the purpose of this competition, can we propose a policy involving the ASEAN for the purpose of advocating for protecting the marine environment? Lishan, so for this competition, it's only focusing on domestic legislations or policies only. Yeah. Okay, moving on to Farisha. Dr. Sarah, may I ask if we should include the budget and monetary aspects into our policy?
Yes, because you have to draft strategy statements to say, okay, we have to look at investments. We have to look at costing. So it will be built into your strategic statements or your strategies or even the directions. So the kinds of investments that we should put in and the kind, not the amount. So the purpose of the investment you can build into the policy. If you get what I'm saying? No, I don't. Okay lah, best example, if you want to see a good instrument, a good policy document, I would say would be the 12 Malaysia plan. This is how they build in the monetary aspects, the fiscal aspects, or the financial measures. See how they draft it in. You know, investment should be, because you're setting direction, kan? Policies. Investment should be directed this way. Investment should be made available. Fiscal measures should be incorporated into X. Financial instruments can be used to be Y. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. Because we have more than 70 policies, you know, running right now in the country. Can you imagine 70 instruments telling you go left, right, down? Crazy, kan? When you think about it. But we are very blessed in this country. We have the Malaysia plans. The Malaysia plan is supposed to bring everything together. Not solar anymore, but yeah. The idea is the Malaysia plan sets the big major direction, then everybody else scales down and it cascades down and becomes all the specific directions for everything else. But with environment cross-cutting so many things, when you're looking at policies relating to the marine environment, it's not one, it's not two. Anybody has started looking at how many policies are linked to the marine environment? Depending on the area or location of your study, it can go up to 25 different instruments. Not one, not two. So you guys, when you're assessing, right, look for how they actually break down the word marine environment. Okay, that's very critical. So by understanding what the word marine environment means, you'll be able to see what are the current directions and what are the current mandates that are in place.
All right, thank you so much, Doctor. To add to that, a little bit clarification from our part. For participants, the inclusion of budget, especially in your submission paper, will be optional due to the fact that some expenditures are not public knowledge. So yeah, it will be optional. Okay. Any more questions?
But you can, if you're doing policies, come up with the strategic statements though. So when you're reviewing, look at the strategies that are in place or whatever strategic action plans that they have in place, then see what's missing. Sometimes we think that financial matters is all the same. It's not the same. We've got fiscal, financial, budgetary, investment, insurance. So expenditure, budget. So there's a lot of, when you talk about fiscal measures, different things, financial mechanisms, different thing, budgetary requirement, different thing, investment, different thing, insurance, different thing. So build it in. The idea is to unpack, to see what the problem is or what the issue is, and then you try to see what's missing lah. Based on, you have to have an ideal checklist, I presume. You know, you would have done all the literature review and come up with this ideal utopian way of how to ensure the marine environmental health. So based on that, that's where you assess whatever that is available now. Okay, you do the situation analysis and you do the needs assessment of all the instruments that are in place now. And then you say, okay, this is the way forward. don't assume that one phrase can catch all. I have seen in some, thank you so much. So I've seen in some cases where people are actually saying, oh, financial mechanisms, is it? Or is it fiscal measures? So those are things that we should need. Okay, Selamat Hari Raya.
Okay, Doctor, to add to that, so for participants, what are the best policy that they can be used as a benchmark to refer in regards to the budget? Yeah.
Malaysia plan. You're not looking at the budget, you're looking at how they phrase it, There is a logic to framing policies. First, you start with something that you want to remove. And then you add on with something that you think we should have. And then you follow up with something that we should do, And then depending on the object, subject, time, and place, then you will phrase the sub strategic actions or actions accordingly lah. So there is no one magic policy that has got, everything's nicely in place. But why I say the 12 Malaysia plan is because they have a nice way of introducing the subject matter. There is a logic behind it. They introduce it, they tell you what are the problems, issues, weakness, constraints, whatever. And then they tell you what are the options that they really want everybody to explore. And then they tell you what are the mechanisms. It can be a legal mechanism, or it can be just policy directions, or it can be a financial mechanism, or it can be upscaling human resources, or increasing, science and technology. So just take, it's in chapter 8 kan? I assume you guys have seen chapter 8 of the 12 Malaysia plan. Everything is inside there. Alah, senang je. Download the PDF document, search box, marine. Every page will come out. Cheats way of doing things, kan? That's how I work lah. Less is always more. So, 12 Malaysia plan, see what the government has put down as the government's aspirations. And then you see outside what the UN is saying. Today lah. I think UNEP has issued another statement about this concern about planetary health. So have a look at that. It's ecosystems health and planetary health today. So have a look at that. So see some of the big ideas that they have actually put down there, because that's directional, UN recommendations are usually directional. So hence is closer to policies. So that's why you can cut and paste lah. Borrow, and then adapt. And then you shape, then it becomes yours. Okay.
Alright, thank you so much, Doctor. Now, next question. Parvaneetha, can you take the floor?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Awa. So the next question, I believe, is from Lishantan. And I think we would be able to answer that on behalf of Lex Aquatica. The question is, when we are proposing any policies, can we also cite authorities to check whether what we are proposing is effective or is it optional? So the answer would be yes, you are definitely encouraged to cite anything that you have. And yeah.
What do you mean by cite authorities? Sorry, I'm curious. When you say, can we also cite authorities, what do you mean? Because you have a bracket that says to check whether what we are proposing is effective. When you say authorities, are you referring to agencies that are mandated or have responsibilities? Is that what you mean? Or are you referring to case law? Because cite authorities, but for some of us means case law. References lah. You can cite references. I think that's what they've just said. But I would, to give you guys an edge, all of you, when you're looking at the policies, also look at the mandates. who's supposed to do what? When you read through the policies that is existing now, what are they supposed to do? Do they have the legal instrument to carry out what is aspired? A lot of times the policies and the laws, they don't meet. So that's something that you guys can explore, and maybe sometimes you don't need to fix the law, but you need to be clearer in your policy direction. Or sometimes you have to explore the law to see how can we now meet the aspirations set. I think the prize should go to the person who can fix the law without going to parliament. Oh, that would be damn terror.
Doctor, I have a follow-up question to Dushantan's. So as he was saying that you can cite authorities, so maybe is it possible, like the current policies that we have in according to marine environment, and we take that and we kind of spin it in the way we want and make it into our own policy? Is that possible?
See, do you really need to have a policy, or do you actually want to sort of roll out the policy? Sometimes you've got policies, really good, lovely statements inside there, but you don't see the rollout. You don't have enough evidence to show that it has been rolled out. I mean, you will have to scan through the, like I said, the best point of entry is to see the top policy plan, because they will say, oh, this policy was launched, but then we haven't done anything yet. Proof already lah, they've admitted it. But sometimes you see the policies, there's a lot of strategies inside there, and it's just sitting there waiting for somebody to pick it up and run with it. So I'm not sure whether this is something that is sort of encouraged in this particular competition, but sometimes you actually need an action plan, because you've got these fantastic directions, fantastic aspirations, fantastic strategies. Got plan of action not? How do you roll it out? So maybe this is something that you guys can recommend. Sometimes we're very good. Oh, this policy tak faham lah, make new one lah. It's like pakai baju, you know. I think the way we run now is like, oh, don't like change lah, don't like change lah. But sometimes it's worthwhile looking at it. Or maybe we don't have to frame a completely new policy. Let's see what we have. Maybe what we need to have is actually a targeted action plan, either based on an object, a subject, a place, or time. So I don't know whether this is within the objective, because because you say can suggest amendments kan. So maybe you can suggest, I don't know, you can suggest something that can actually help roll out whatever that's. Sometimes the aspirations was really good already. Directions were really very good already. So maybe that's something that you can actually contribute, because sometimes creating new policies, alamak, you start all over again. Same thing with law, start all over again. Okay. No more question. Oh, no more. Okay.
Doctor, yeah, there's one more.
Okay.
On our part, the moderators, we have done a few efforts to come up with a few questions. So yeah, so from what you have given us today, and viewing everything, the assessment and situational analysis and everything, now let's say we have a policy in place, but there is a very thin line between what is like futuristic and realistic and what is unattainable. And how do we sort of know what can we do and what we can't do? I mean, we already have all that you have listed over here, and we have checked all the boxes, but suddenly we have this kind of issue.
It's a very good question, actually. What do you do when you have everything? And you already have everything, and why are we not moving? So this is where you have to rethink what is the actual need in relation to the direction that has been proposed. Sometimes it's not fit for purpose. We design something so fantastic, but it's actually not fit for purpose, because we don't design for either the object, the subject, the place, or the time. We've got this ideal situation, oh, the world will have peace, love, and whatever. So we design this fantastic policy for peace, love, and whatever. Great. So we have this fantastic document. Then what? So the biggest challenge in any policy drafting is, how do you cascade it down? Who's going to pick it up? So one of the challenges that I faced is that you're drafting, you put down the who's who and what's what. How do you roll it out? So that's tough, because it's not just one person rolling out the policy, It's like a whole orchestra. In order to make something work, it's a whole group of people. And it's not just the government, sometimes it's the industry, sometimes. So the idea is to see, okay, brilliant document, not moving, take a step back and ask yourself, who is expected to take this and run? And then when you have that, then you say, okay, how do I remove these constraints? Because something is holding you back, limiting or restricting you from going forward. If you have it all, why are you not going forward then? So something's holding you back, right? So what are the constraints that you need to pull out? So when you're reviewing policies, last century, early this century, there was this particular policy and everybody's complaining, oh, this policy is useless. It's like a white elephant, is not doing anything. So I said, okay, let's sit down and take this policy. Let's just go through one by one. So we looked at all the strategies and I said, desktop review only. No need to even ask anybody. Just using the statements, using that time it was the 8th Malaysia Plan, 7th Malaysia Plan, and the 9th Malaysia Plan. 8th midterm review, 8th plan, and 7th plan. So I said, and the midterm review, 7th plan. So let's look at these 4 Malaysia plans. Let's look at all that time no Google. So look at, so we went to the library, we went through all the newspapers. So we picked a year, we picked a time frame. So we said, okay, 5 years 3 years back I was so lazy, said 3 years So look at 3 years and see what has been done. So we took that particular policy, we listed down all the strategies and all the statements, whatever that's inside there, we listed all down. And then what we did was we tried to see what has been done based on that statement. So what we found was almost 99% of the policy, the strategies have been rolled out. And then after that, of course, I told this person, I said, look, I did this very funny exercise. I was so unemployed. I had nothing better to do. I was so bored. So I did this. So I said, can we test this? And he said, okay, let me write you an official letter and we'll appoint you. Just come in and then we'll test that little table that you did. So I said, okay, how are you going to test this table? Easy. I said, get me the heads of all these agencies. We'll have a workshop. They go through what I've done and then they confirm it. So at that point in time, when we spent half a day, 1 day actually, because we had lunch and we continued. And at the end of the day, not only did we further populate the table, they realized now that there was opportunity to now carry forward some of the work. So a lot of times we don't map the implementation of all these strategies and all this whatever. So because of that, we assume that it's not working. And you know, the word assume is a very bad word, right? So this is why there is a disconnect. Drafting, launching, to actually implementing. There is that big disconnect. So before you comment, say, oh, this policy, oh, tak ada ni, take a look at what's available, see what has been done. Sometimes now today even easier, like you can Google, you know. You can just Google an activity that they state in policy, just Google activity. Oh God, they did it in Maran lah, they did it in somewhere in Kuala Terengganu lah. So it's done. It's just that it's not reported as this strategy 1.1 tick. No. Because reporting is not our forte. I have not answered your question right. I have, but in a roundabout way.
I believe the participants would be able to, know that.
I really hope so. Really hope so.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. We have one more question from Paul Francis. In your opinion, do you think institutional inefficiency are barriers to policy implementation?
Depends what we mean by inefficiency. Are we inefficient because we have challenges? Are we inefficient because we have limitations? Are we inefficient because we don't have what we need to do what we need to do? So depending on what we mean by inefficiency, then we can say, then we can match to, the answer is yes, but it's a qualified yes. Because it depends on I don't like to use the word inefficiency because I don't know lah. I think an agency is inefficient because it has something behind it. People are not inefficient for the sake of being inefficient, you know. So there's something lacking. So if we can look at that, then we can see whether this is a true barrier to the policy implementation. We like to I realize that in the papers they always say, oh, inefficiency, tidak berkesan, ineffective. Go back. So the answer is a qualified yes, depending on what we mean by inefficiency.
Doctor, just to add on to the part inefficiency, what if it's something to do with poor funding for research studies and what happens from there?
That's a constraint, right? So since you guys are the one changing the world already, can, so you have to ask yourself, so I have a limitation, there's no money. So how can we be creative with that? Can we do crowdsourcing? Can we get the crowd now to fund a research for a particular topic or area? You know, can we do that? Can we bypass this traditional, one must apply before one can receive? Tak payahlah. You know, maybe we can do away with that. Maybe you need new partners to help fund the work that you're doing. We now have got a lot more industry sort of involvement, kan? So maybe these are the new way of, I don't know, solving a problem, addressing an issue. So lack of money is no excuse. Have to find until you get. Okay.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for a very, very intuitive session. I believe the participants have well enough information and they are ready to, draft policies after this. So over back to you, Radhwa.
Thank you so much, everybody. Hope it was useful. Let me just stop share.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor, once again. Now we will move on to the next part of the next agenda for today. Farhan, the floor is yours.
Oh, am I audible? Okay. So thank you so much to the moderators and especially Dr. Sarah for a fruitful and engaging session. I'm sure that many today will have new ideas and also new strategies. I believe that they'll be able to take home from today's session. So next, please. So Lex Aquatica has prepared an information pack for the MPPLC. And inside, you may find important information regarding the competition for your perusal. So please take a screenshot or scan the QR code shown on the screen to access the information pack. And also, if the webinar today sparked an interest for you on the public policies and legislations that currently protect the marine environment in Malaysia, and more importantly, contributing solutions towards those problems, please sign up for our Malaysian Marine Environment Public Policy and Law Review competition. So please take a screenshot or scan the QR code shown above to access the registration form. Furthermore, tune into the pre-recorded MPPLC seminar series on Ecology's YouTube channel today, where you will have the opportunity to hear from a range of experts in relevant fields. The pre-recorded lecture videos aim to provide a brief overview of the topics to potential MPPLC participants. So please do take a screenshot or scan the QR code above to access the YouTube channel. Or alternatively, you can just search Ecology UM on the YouTube search bar. Okay, so to end the session today, once again, we would like to thank Dr. Sarah for her invaluable time in sharing her insight and expertise in our event today. Lex Aquatica would also like to extend its appreciation to the Millennium Campus Network and also the Asian Research Institute for Environmental Law, or ARIEL, for their tremendous support in Lex Aquatica's initiative. So before we part ways, let us freeze this memory as one of our officers would like to take a screenshot of the webinar today for all of us today. So you're advised to turn on your front-facing cameras and smile at the camera. So Ute, yeah.
So I see that the officers has turned on their cameras. Can the participants turn on their cameras as well? All right. There's no more participants turning on the cameras. Sorry, can the on the count of 3, 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll pass the floor back to Farhan.
Okay, thank you, Arhan. Okay, so thank you again to all who attended today. So if you have any queries, please do approach Lex Aquatica via email, and we will try our best in addressing them. So thank you, everyone. Stay safe and have a nice day.
Thank you. Stay safe. Selamat Hari Raya in advance. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. Goodbye.